Hey everybody, how's it going? This is John Breeden. It is February 26th, 2021. It is Friday, and you know what that means. We have Homestead Miami coming up this weekend. Cup and Xfinity action on tap. No trucks this weekend. It is a doubleheader weekend. And I'm going to preview both of those races, give my predictions, and as well as review the first episode of, yes, the Netflix show The Crew. The first episode. But before I get to that, I have two stories that came out this week that I want to talk about, including Chip Ganassi suspended for one race. This is from the main site of Nascar.com, the front page. Chip Ganassi fined, suspended for one race after COVID-19 violation at Daytona. NASCAR officials issued a one-race suspension Monday to team owner Chip Ganassi for violating COVID-19 event protocols last weekend at Daytona International Speedway. Officials said that Ganassi's penalty was for, quote, bringing into the competition area a non-essential individual that was restricted from the footprint. Ganassi was also fined $30,000. Pending any potential appeal, he is barred from this weekend's NASCAR Cup Series event at Homestead Miami Speedway. Chip Ganassi raced and is still permitted to field its two entries, the number 1 Chevy for driver Kurt Busch and the number 42 Chevy for Ross Chastain, in Sunday's event. So I got a lot to say about this. And, the first thing I want to say is, before I go off on a tangent and people, twist my words in what they thought I said, I do want to make it clear that I agree that NASCAR should have penalized Chip Ganassi. With that said, I wish NASCAR would be a little more consistent with their rules in terms of, not just, rules related to, competition, but these COVID-19 rules. And I'm going to take you guys back to the 2020 Coca-Cola 600. And I'm not so sure if everybody remembers what happened after that race, but I'm going to remind you. This is an article from Insider.com by Linus King. NASCAR won't penalize drivers Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch for conversing up close without masks in spite of its own COVID-19 safety protocols. NASCAR won't penalize Chase or two-time champion Kyle Busch for a conversation they had after Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte on Sunday night, in which neither was wearing a mask or practicing social distancing. That's in spite of the sanctioning body's own COVID-19 safety protocols, which state that either of the above could result in a $10,000 to $50,000 fine. The conversation happened when Busch went up to Elliott, who had just lost the 600-mile race that was his to lose, to talk. The two had clashed on the track just a few days before, and they just talk about, that incident at Darlington, and then they just talk about how they had a conversation. The gist of this is, when asked by Insider whether NASCAR would take action on the close quarters conversation given the above, a NASCAR spokesperson simply said no. When asked if there was any particular reason behind that ruling, NASCAR did not respond. Now, if you have two brain cells, you can figure out why NASCAR did not fine or suspend Chase Elliott or Kyle Busch for this. Now, obviously, here's the thing. I just wish NASCAR would be consistent with this rule. If you're going to fine and suspend Chip Ganassi for what he did, you also need to take action against Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch. And why they didn't when it happened, I have no idea why. Now, I'm not saying you should retroactively go back and penalize these two for this, but if you're going to make these rules, which you have to, it's COVID-19 protocol, if you're going to hand out fines and suspensions, you have to be fair to everybody. And I 100% agree that you should have penalized or punished Chip Ganassi. Okay? But you have to be fair to everybody. Now, that's just one instance. Now, I mean, I can't name any others off the top of my head, but that's the one I remember was the Chase Elliott Kyle Busch one. And they were not penalized. For obvious reasons, the fact that they're, two of the biggest names in the sport. But, I mean, how could you let them get off the hook for that? They were not wearing masks, and they were not social distancing. And there were no fines, and there were certainly no suspensions. I mean, at the very least, fine them. At the very least. You don't have to suspend your two biggest stars for one race because of it, but at the very least, punish them. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of hypocrisy going on with this whole thing. And like I said, I 100% agree you should have penalized Chip. But you should have also penalized Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch when it happened. And I know a lot of people are actually mad about this. They're mad that they penalized Chip Ganassi, which the reality is, I mean, you shouldn't be because he violated the rules. The rules are the rules. And all I'm saying is NASCAR needs to stay consistent with this. And so if you're going to fine and suspend Chip Ganassi, this needs to go for everybody. And, I mean, look, Bubba Wallace posted a photo on Instagram, like right after the Daytona 500. It was a picture of him right before the race started, and he had his mask on, but it was not covering his nose. And a lot of people were outraged by this. And, I mean, all I can really say is, if you were outraged about that, you better be outraged about Chip Ganassi violating these rules. Because if not, you're a hypocrite. And chances are you probably just need to shut up. So, and listen, I'm not saying, I mean, Bubba Wallace should have been penalized too, even if it was an accident. Even if his mask slipped off his nose and whatever. I mean, obviously, if he's on camera and he's got his mask on and you see it slip off for a second, then he pulls it right back up. No, I don't think that needs a fine or a suspension. But, I mean, we don't actually know the whole story. So, to me, I mean, sorry. Look, the rule is the rule, and I think you should be fair to everyone. And that goes for Chip Ganassi. We don't know what happened with this whole thing. I mean, he brought this person in, and, I mean, was it a thing of Chip didn't know he was on, the essential list? Or was he just trying to sneak this guy in and thought, oh, maybe I'll get away with it? Who knows? We don't know the whole story, but the reality is that he had a non-essential person in the area. So that's the rule. All I'm saying is you need to be fair with these rules and be consistent. Now, again, I would be more mad about this if, like, say, they fined and suspended Chip Ganassi, and a month from now, Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch are having a conversation with no masks on, and nothing happens. Okay? Now, maybe, last year they had that happen, and then they thought, you know what? We've got to start dropping the hammer on this rule. And I don't know. I just think they need to stay consistent with the rules. That's all I'm saying. So there you go. And again, it's not that big of a deal, honestly. It's a one-race suspension, but I just want them to stay consistent with the rules. So that's that story. The other story I wanted to bring up, Steve Letarte is back as a crew chief in the Cup Series. This is from the front page of NASCAR.com. Steve Letarte will be back atop the pit box for Sunday's NASCAR Cup Series Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead Miami Speedway, as he will call the shots for the number 7 Spire Motorsports team and driver Corey LaJoie. Letarte will be the crew chief for Sunday's race since Ryan Sparks will be sidelined due to COVID-19 protocols. So yeah, it looks like it's just a fill-in. It looks like it's probably just a one-off race or possibly a couple of weeks, depending on how long Ryan Sparks is out. But yeah, what better guy to bring in than a very experienced crew chief like Steve Letarte? He crew chief for Jeff Gordon. He crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's a very smart guy. He's won a lot of races. So, yeah, good for Steve. It's good to see him back up on the pit box. Again, I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing. It looks like it's just a fill-in, but there you go. So Steve Letarte back this weekend. So, of course, this weekend we do have Xfinity and Cup action on tap. And this is the third race of the year. Never, well, at least I think never, have we seen a season where the first three races of the year have been first-time winners. And obviously, Michael McDowell won the Daytona 500. Christopher Bell won the Daytona Road Course. I don't think we're going to see a first-timer this weekend. I just don't sense it. Just don't see it happening, but you never know. And I'm going to go ahead and look at the lineup here for the Dixie Vodka 400. Denny Hamlin will be leading the field to the green flag. Remember, he won Homestead last year. And Joey Logano will start on the outside of the front row. He won Homestead in 2018 when he won the 2018 title. And remember, Joey Logano, the past 2 weeks, he has lost the race within the last lap and a half. So, there you go. Christopher Bell, last week's winner, starts third. Kevin Harvick starts fourth. Kurt Busch starts fifth. Michael McDowell in sixth. Brad Keselowski seventh. Ryan Preece eighth. Martin Truex Jr. ninth. Cole Custer 10th. That's your top 10. I'll go through some other notable starters here. Chase Elliott starting 11th. You have Alex Bowman 13th. You have Ryan Blaney 14th. Kyle Larson, very good at Homestead. He starts in 17th. You have Bubba Wallace 19th. And 22nd, you have Austin Dillon. 24th is Kyle Busch. And 30th, you have the rookie Chase Briscoe. 35th back here, you have Tyler Reddick. And 37th, Matt DiBenedetto. It's going to be a very interesting weekend. As I've preached these past 2 weeks, this is really going to be the first time you see what these guys have in 2021. Like, where are things going to really shape up? And, I mean, obviously this weekend isn't the end-all, be-all. Obviously you have, 20-some races left before the playoffs. But, I mean, these first couple of races, they're always indicators to see who's going to be in contention year-round. And, obviously, Denny Hamlin is looking to get another win at Homestead. Looking to pick up where he left off in 2020. Very good 2020 for Denny Hamlin, despite not winning the title. Obviously, Kevin Harvick had 9 wins last year, but did not have a shot at the championship at season's end. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch Kevin Harvick this year. And why I say that is, well, these past couple of years, I mean, I no doubt think that Kevin Harvick has been in the prime of his career these past couple of years, despite being 45 years old, and despite being in the sport for well over 20 years. I mean, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do in these past couple of seasons. But when you come off a season like that in 2020, 9 wins, won the regular season title, looked like no question he was going to breeze past everybody and win the title, and you lose it in the next to last race of the year at Martinsville. You got to wonder if he's going to come back stronger this year, or if the pain from that loss, the devastation from that loss the year before, is just going to unmotivate this team. And I think we're kind of at that point. I think Kevin Harvick really is at a crossroads in his career at this point. I mean, his contract is coming due, I believe, in 2021. And I don't see Harvick retiring even after this year. Even depending on how he does this year, I still don't see him retiring until at least 2022 or beyond. But I think it's going to be really interesting. And hey, listen, I love what Kevin Harvick's been able to do these past couple of years. I just think it's so badass that, this sport has been, these past couple of years, it's been all about the youth. It's been about guys in their mid-20s, early 30s, able to go out there and dominate and win races. And here's Kevin Harvick at 45 years old. He's been around the sport for 20 years, and he's able to just destroy his competition. I mean, he won a quarter of the races in 2020. So, I mean, I want to see it. I want to see it happen for Harvick. And I thought it was going to happen last year. And, he had a string of bad races there. He had a bad race at Texas, and he had a bad race at Martinsville, and he ended up out. And I think it's big. I mean, you always see when guys, they lose a championship. I remember it was a string of like 7 or 8 years where whoever finished second in the title, in the final point standings, the next year they would go like winless and have a terrible year. And so I just think, I don't know. It's going to be hard. I don't know. I just think Kevin Harvick, he could go either way this year. He could have a really bad year, or he can have another really good year and compete for a title. And I certainly hope he does compete for a title. But we'll see what happens. And obviously, Denny Hamlin, he's been knocking on the door year after year after year of a championship. Who knows? Is this the year for Denny? I mean, the past 2 years I've said it's Denny Hamlin's year, and I've been wrong. So, I mean, I can't say that. I mean, what's going to be different this year? I just don't know. And, I mean, maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I just don't think it's going to be Denny Hamlin's year. I mean, for whatever reason, he's able to have good seasons. He's able to have great seasons. But he gets towards the end of the year, and he just can't put the ending together. And so I just don't sense it. I just don't see it happening. And maybe I will. I mean, here's the thing. If you're able to get to Phoenix, anybody can win that championship. That's the reality. Anybody can go to Phoenix and have a good setup and go out and dominate and win the title. Anybody. Any one of those 4 drivers. So, you really can't base it off of, well, what have they done all season? You just really can't. So, I don't know. I think Denny Hamlin can get to another Final Four, but can he close out that final race at Phoenix? But that's another day, another conversation for another day. But I don't know. I expect Denny to have a good year. And I expect Kevin Harvick to have, I don't know yet. I don't know if he's going to have a mediocre year or if he's going to have another great year. I think it's questionable. And I think we'll get a lot of answers this weekend in Homestead. I mean, if Harvick goes out there and he leads a lot of laps, he wins the stage, and maybe he wins and maybe he finishes top 5, I mean, maybe you have your answer at that point. But, I don't know. And how's Chase Elliott going to do, the defending champion? I mean, Chase is, he's been decent on mile and a halves, but he's not great. And he's a lot better, obviously, on road courses. He's a road course king. And, he's good on the short tracks. He's able to win Martinsville and obviously Phoenix. I know Phoenix isn't a short track, but is a mile-long track. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how Chase fares out, but I know a lot of people are pointing to Kyle Larson to win this weekend. I mean, Kyle Larson's very good at Homestead, but he's had a lot of inactivity, obviously, at least from NASCAR. I mean, obviously, he's been on the dirt tracks and things like that, so how much does that affect him? I don't know. We'll get a lot of answers this weekend. I don't expect Larson to win this weekend. I just think it's too early, and I would more pick him for probably the dirt win at Bristol. I mean, I think he and probably Christopher Bell or even Stenhouse, I mean, they're going to have that place locked up. So I just don't sense it this weekend for Kyle Larson. I don't know. I think Denny Hamlin's obviously going to run very well. He's starting on the pole. I think Joey Logano is still very hungry for a win. And I think Kevin Harvick's going to run good this weekend. I just don't know if he's going to win or not. But, I mean, who knows? Brad Keselowski should also have a solid run as well. And we'll see what Martin Truex Jr. I'm not so sure about Martin Truex Jr. yet either. I mean, Martin Truex Jr., he's very consistent. If you look back at 2020, his average finish, I mean, he's a very consistent driver. but the wins were not there for Martin Truex Jr. last year. So, are they going to be there in 2021? I don't know. I think this is a crossroads year for Truex as well. He just signed that extension with Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, is he able to, turn up the energy in 2021 and get some more wins? Or, I mean, is this an off year for him as well? And obviously Kyle Busch. Where does Kyle Busch fit into this? I mean, I've said from the very beginning, I think Kyle Busch is going to come out swinging in 2021, and he's going to win some races, and he's going to have a shot at the championship. It's going to be another comeback year for the 18. But who knows? I mean, he has won Homestead before, back in 2019 when he won the title. Obviously 2015 as well when he won the title. So, we'll see. And I am, in fact, going to go with Kevin Harvick. I'm milling it over in my head, and I'm just thinking, this weekend, it's our first mile and a half. I think Homestead's actually a little longer than a mile and a half, but technically it's our first mile and a half of the year. And I just think no practice, no qualifying. I think experience is going to win over for this first mile and a half race of the year. And, I mean, listen, these no practice, no qualifying races last year, who was the best? Kevin Harvick. He is able to get the most out of his race car, and I'm going to go with him. I mean, I just think the question is not necessarily this weekend, does Harvick do well or not? It's going to be in the later weeks. Does the competition catch up to him? Do they catch on to what Harvick's doing? I mean, we'll see. But I think this weekend, Harvick is going to set the tone, and we'll see what happens in the later weeks. But this weekend, I think it's a safe pick. I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick. I think Kevin Harvick wins this weekend and tries to pick up where he left off in 2020. As far as Xfinity, I'm going to go with Harrison Burton this weekend. And I just think it's Harrison Burton's time to go up and really compete for a championship. I mean, obviously he was in the playoffs last year, but didn't go quite as planned. But he did have 4 wins in 2020. And, now with Chase Briscoe moved up and more experience under his belt, I think he's going to give Austin Cindric a good run for the title this year. I mean, I think as Rick Allen, I know Rick Allen loves to talk about the big 3, so I'll talk about the big 3. I think your big 3 this year is going to be Austin Cindric, obviously, having won the title last year and already having momentum after winning Daytona. And I think Harrison Burton's going to be there as well. I think he's going to be much improved this year and even more improved than last year after his 4 wins. And then the other guy I think is going to be Noah Gragson. I think Gragson, just more experience under his belt after last year, and he got some wins last year, so I think he's going to want to go compete for a title. So I think that's going to be your Xfinity Big 3. We'll see where A.J. Allmendinger shakes up. I mean, I know there are a lot of people that think Allmendinger is going to be a big threat in 2021. I don't know yet. I really don't. I mean, obviously the road courses, he's going to be a threat, and the super speedways, but I mean, is A.J. Allmendinger going to go to, Homestead or Las Vegas or, Bristol and have a top 5, top 3 car? I don't know yet. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, we haven't seen any mile and a half racing this year, so it's tough to say. Who's going to look strong and who's not. You kind of have to have a baseline pick, a safe pick. And I think this weekend Harrison Burton is a safe pick. And he's pretty good on those bigger tracks. Obviously, he won California last year. He won Texas. So I'm going to go with Harrison Burton. So that's my weekend preview. I think Harrison Burton's going to win Saturday. Kevin Harvick's going to win Sunday. It is time, everybody, for me to review the first episode of Netflix's The Crew, starring Kevin James. Now, I just watched this the other day, and I didn't take notes on it or anything crazy like that. I kind of just going to go over the gist of the show, and I mean, I thought it was alright. It was just a basic sitcom. I know a lot of people hate it. I mean, I I really didn't think it was all that bad. I mean, it was just your basic sitcom. I mean, it wasn't overly funny or anything like that, or it wasn't terrible. It certainly wasn't the best show I've ever seen, but I mean, it's not gonna be. And I didn't think it was all that bad of a show, but I'll go ahead and just go over the gist here. So, if you don't want to hear the Crew spoilers, episode 1, it's probably best if you just turn the video off right now and tune in Monday when I review the Homestead race weekend. But so this first episode, obviously Kevin James is starring. Kevin James is the crew chief, and he's supposed to be like this racer of the past. And he talks about how he raced in like the late 80s and early 90s. He talks about racing Jeff Gordon and all this other stuff. And he has a picture in his office of like a photo from him from 1994. And he's like standing outside his race car. And so basically he's the crew chief of this race team, and his driver, Jake, he's kind of I don't even know how to describe him. He's kind of a nerd. And he's their driver, and he crashes a lot, and I mean his gimmick is he kind of sucks. He's a bad driver. Okay, so the whole story is Bobby Spencer. He's like the team owner. He's stepping down, and he's giving the team ownership to his daughter, and so basically they're worried she's going to come in and start to take over the place and make it into a better race team, because this race team, they're really struggling. They're not getting any wins. This geek Jake, he keeps crashing, and so they want to change it up. And so, I mean, again, I don't even remember this entire episode, but they're whatever her name is, Catherine. That's the daughter's name. So Catherine goes into Kevin's office, and they're having a conversation, and she's talking about how she wants to change the place. She wants to win. And Kevin's talking about, I've been in this sport for a long time, and I know how this stuff works. And Catherine then explains, well, you guys only have 2 top 10s this year. And, it was this whole thing of like, well, that's not too bad for our team. This is what Kevin's argument was. But, I mean, the reality is like, I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, you want to win, so why don't you want to change the place? If you want to win, don't you want to win? But anyway, and then he's there's one scene where he's like giving her the tour of the race shop, and I actually thought one of the lines were funny. That he said something along the lines of we cheat until we get caught, and then he goes, no, not really, we can't cheat or we'll get penalized, which is actually hilarious because like, I mean, the NASCAR rules, they definitely are stricter now in terms of cheating. Like if you fail post-race inspection, you give up the win. But come on, these teams, they're pushing it to the very edge. I mean, they're not just flat out cheating, but they definitely are doing things to push the limit as much as possible. And so the whole big story of the thing is the new owner, Catherine. She wants to bring in this female driver, and she's a really good driver, and they want to bring her in to replace old Jake. And Kevin doesn't want to do that. He's like, this is my driver, and basically they end up having a contest. And they go to some track. They never even said what track they were going to. I guess Charlotte. But they go to this track, and they say, okay, whoever runs the fastest lap here gets the car. And so this driver, she's, forget what her name was, but she's talking all this trash, and Jake's kind of just doesn't really have anything to say. He's kind of just taking all this trash talk on the chin. And she goes out, and she does a lap, and comes back, and then Jake gets in his car, and he goes out and he runs the faster lap, so he keeps his job. But then he got distracted by something with his he had a necklace on, and then he just wrecked himself. So Yeah, which is kind of weird because then he wrecked, and then they're all standing there kind of looking at each other like, oh my God, he wrecked. And it's like, he already won the contest. Who cares if he wrecked afterwards? But anyway. And they actually never followed up on that, whether he would keep his job or not after, he had got the faster lap, but then he wrecked. But they never explained that. So anyway, I guess that's a cliffhanger for the next episode. And so during all this, Kevin was supposed to go on a date. And he left. He forgot, basically. And because he had this thing with work and he had to go and see who his new driver was going to be. And so that didn't work out too well. And he didn't end up going on a date with this woman. So anyway. So then the last scene is Kevin, he's sitting in his office and he's watching old race footage and Beth, who is the office manager, and they're like, she's friends with Kevin, and she comes in, and they're kind of talking, and they sit down, and they start watching the race footage, and then she goes, oh, I've got to get going, and so then she leaves. So there's your cliffhanger. It looks like these two are gonna get together. So there you go. That was the first episode. I don't know how good that review was, but I mean, I didn't mind it. I mean, again, it's not the best show I've ever seen. I mean, I thought Kevin James was actually pretty funny in it. He had some funny lines, but I mean, other than that, I mean, it was just your everyday kind of corny sitcom. I mean, look, I know a lot of people hate this. A lot of people are just like, oh my God, it's ruining the sport. This is just terrible. And it's like, bro, it's not ruining the sport. It's not. It's just it's your everyday, just corny sitcom on Netflix. Like, it's not ruining the sport. If you enjoy it, great. If you don't like it, well, you don't have to watch it. And, I mean, I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it. It was, again, by far not the best show I've ever seen, but I didn't mind it. So, I mean, I'm going to end up watching the rest of the season and see what I think. But the idea that this show is going to, like, ruin the sport or something like that, I mean, come on. Give me a break. It's just a sitcom on Netflix. It's completely harmless. It's not ruining the sport. It's just something they're doing for fun. Do I think they're going to make new fans out of this? Probably not. But it's just a fun show they're doing. So I don't mind it. But anyway, that is your review, everybody. Again, I don't know how good that was, but you can go watch it. It's up on Netflix. And so there you go. And that is it for me. I will be back either Sunday night or Monday to talk Homestead. And that is it. Everybody have a great day.